Welcome to the Colleague Experience Podcast. In today's episode, we're diving into bold insights, groundbreaking leadership strategies, and the power of experimentation. We'll explore how perception management can shape organizational success, drawing from intriguing examples like the Bennewitz case and its lessons for leaders today. Buckle up for an exciting journey into the art of aligning perceptions with purpose. Let's start. Bennewitz was a central figure in a society that believed aliens were trying to take over Earth. In the 1980s, while living near a U.S. Air Force base in New Mexico, he occasionally witnessed strange lights moving across the sky. This naturally reinforced his belief in an imminent alien invasion, and also led to a few months of forced hospitalization after he decided his wife was controlled by extraterrestrials. Surprisingly, when he reported what he saw and thought to authorities, they confirmed his theory, leading him to believe he was privy to a closely guarded secret. They knew how he couldn't be trusted to keep this secret. Bennewitz wasn't alone. Many others like him existed across the United States. It was later revealed that he and others were part of a deception program by the American government, which was developing cutting-edge weapons during the Cold War. To hide the fact that these were game-changing weapons against the Soviets, the American defense establishment devised a deception plan, an alien invasion narrative. Bennewitz was an easy target. This program was part of a broader government initiative. President Reagan's advisors called it perception management. They understood that in such a complex world, leaders have little influence over what actually happens in reality. But they do have the ability to change the public's perception of reality. Today, we want to talk about perception management in organizational contexts. Let's start with the conclusion. Managing the perception of yourself and the unit you lead isn't just nice to have. It's not some shameful matter for politicians. It's as part of the job, an important part. In fact, you might not love this aspect of your role, but in senior positions, you don't have the luxury of deciding not to do it. In our view, it's not only not unprofessional, it's actually part of your professionalism as managers. And if you ask us, you should be evaluated on it, among other things. We recently discussed organizational politics. When we at Colleague talk about productive organizational politics, one of the key principles we emphasize is manage the perception of yourself as managers and of the units you lead. Why? For several reasons. One of the most important is that how you're perceived has a direct connection to your sphere of influence in the organization. The more aligned the perception of you personally and your unit is with the culture, strategy, and interests of the organization, the greater your ability to influence and lead systemic initiatives. When it comes to senior management, the ability to influence systemically isn't a bonus. It's a basic expectation. And one of the conditions for having such influence is being valued by the organization for your work and that of your teams. Simple. The responses we often receive from participants in our groups on this topic fall into two categories. A feeling of distaste for the idea, I didn't become a manager to do PR. The naive thought that the organization already knows what's happening in their unit and there's no need to invest too much in this. Regarding the first response, as mentioned, managing perception is an important, even critical part of management work, especially in senior roles. We should note that in Israeli companies that are part of global corporations, perception management is even more important. When your stakeholders are overseas and speak a language that is, well, not Hebrew, they usually have a broader set of interests than yours. If they aren't aware of what's happening in your organization, they might make decisions contrary to your position. As we said, this is about expanding your sphere of influence. Those who have been in this position know the frustration when another unit that speaks the management's native language receives greater appreciation, despite everyone knowing they don't deserve it. Regarding the second response, The naive thought that the organization knows what's happening in your unit. Well, the answer is embedded in the question. It is naive. Even if everyone around you has access to all the knowledge that would enable them to know what's happening in your unit, even if you send detailed and readable reports describing the various activities you lead, even if you're careful to update on the status of your projects in management meetings, even if you do all this, it doesn't mean the message will get through. Why? Because that's just one of the three components of perception management. The first component is defining the perception you want for yourself and the units you manage. Remember that we're in the context of organizational influence, so you need to think about which perception will contribute to your influence. The second component, as mentioned, is communicating what's happening in a way that aligns with the desired perception, assuming, of course, that it also aligns with reality. We're not in the business of falsification. The third component is ensuring the message gets through. How will you know if the message is getting through? As we always say, when you don't know, ask. Yes, exactly like that. Sit down with your colleagues occasionally and ask them about their perception of you and your unit in their eyes. If you've chosen the management profession, or it chose you, then it's entirely your responsibility to manage everything that affects and is affected by your personal success and that of your unit, including public relations. We saw this play out dramatically in a software company we worked with last year. The R&D team had developed an innovative machine learning algorithm that significantly improved their product's performance. However, despite their technical achievement, the executive team was considering outsourcing future development work to reduce costs. When we investigated, we discovered that while the R&D team was documenting their work thoroughly in technical reports, they weren't communicating their achievements in terms that resonated with the C-suite's priorities, market differentiation, and competitive advantage. We helped them reframe their communications to highlight how their innovations were creating barriers to entry for competitors and enabling premium pricing. Within 3 months, not only was the outsourcing plan shelved, but the R&D team received additional budget for expansion. In another case, we worked with a biotech startup whose research team had made significant progress on their drug candidate, but was struggling to secure the next funding round. The science was solid, but the perception problem became clear to us during executive meetings. The research team, led by brilliant scientists, communicated in highly technical language about protein binding affinity and molecular mechanisms. While accurate, this failed to address what investors needed to hear: timeline to clinical trials, potential market size, and competitive positioning. We helped them develop a dual communication strategy, maintaining their detailed scientific documentation while creating parallel communications that translated their progress into business milestones. The result was not just securing their next funding round, but attracting interest from 2 major pharmaceutical companies for potential partnerships. If you're in management, perception management isn't just an optional skill. It's as fundamental as budget planning or team development. It's about ensuring that your valuable work doesn't just happen, but's understood and appreciated in the right context by those who make decisions affecting your future. In our experience, the most technically brilliant teams can still fail if they neglect this critical aspect of organizational effectiveness. We've reached the end of today's podcast, where we explored how Paul Bennewitz was part of a government perception management strategy during the Cold War and discussed the importance of effective perception management in organizational leadership to align perceptions with culture and strategy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues so they can also stay updated on the latest news and gain powerful insights. Stay tuned for more updates.